to go through the motions of articulating what's going on inside their heads. I'm going to open up a little bit for you. I've been thinking about this a long time. Hey guys, Oscar here for Not a Grouch. Thanks for watching another video with me. I appreciate it. I appreciate every single one of you guys. I'm almost at 1,500 followers, subscribers. Whoever gets to 1,500 for the next, whatever couple of weeks, I'm gonna be giving shout outs to anybody that leaves comments. Make it a good comment, of course, but I want to show that I really appreciate you. And that also goes back to what I want to talk about today, which is mental health. We've had all this talk about all kinds of mental health issues in the past year, and just I believe yesterday or the day before was mental health World Mental Health Day or whatever. Every day should be a mental health day because we've been taking care of our physical health for a long time. It's always been part of our part of the human experience. You have people, going back to the gladiators and the people that survived fights, between warring nations. They were the strongest, the fittest, the fastest. With our cultures, most Western cultures, actually every culture I've looked into has a bit of a stigma towards mental issues. And they don't have to be like you're schizophrenic or something, although that's an issue that, a lot of people have. But it could be something as complex as schizophrenia or gender dysphoria or OCD, those kind of things. Or it can be something just as minor as anxiety attacks. Maybe there's a situation that makes you feel anxious, and we all feel a little bit of anxiety once in a while, but some people really get affected by this, and our culture tends to look down upon that. Like, what's wrong with you? Why would you say that? Why, what's wrong with you? Why can't you just get it together? Why can't you just man up or woman up or whatever, And it is those type of comments or that type of attitude that puts people in a place where they wonder, hey, you know what? I really have to keep this to myself. I can't be telling people about it because they're going to think I'm weak. They're going to think I'm not capable. They're going to think I'm going to have a breakdown in the middle of an important situation. And, those are all valid concerns on both sides. But we have to do more to help people overcome those issues, either through some sort of therapy or education, practicing, whatever it is that needs to happen for those issues to be alleviated or removed altogether. We have to do a little bit more about that. Instead of shaming people, instead of making fun of people, instead of putting them down, we need to think more a little bit about how those issues affect their lives and how. Here's where it comes in for business. It's very important that you understand this. When somebody in your community or your customers is not doing well, it's going to affect you. It's going to affect your business. Maybe indirectly, maybe very directly. It does, it all depends on the cases. But if somebody's not doing well, you can be affected by that. So if you don't want to think about it from a humanitarian point of view where you want to help people, think about it of how that's going to affect you. You see, for some reason, I happen to attract a lot of people that want to tell me their problem. And it ends up being like that. It's been like that since, I don't know, a long time. People come to me and tell me issues. They ask me for advice. Maybe it's part of why I like giving advice now, because I've had a lot of practice. I have friends that have come to me and say, this is going on, or how did you do this? How did you handle that? And I try to give them my best advice. But what I always find out is that when they confide in me, they do they're looking for an outlet. They're looking for somebody to listen. 95% of the time, all they want is somebody to listen, just for them to run through their thoughts, to go through the motions of articulating what's going on inside their heads. And they want somebody that's not going to judge them and not going to immediately tell them how to fix it, or to reinforce that that something may be broken or maybe out of place. So, but a lot of times when they come to me, they're hesitant on the first time when they're considering talking to me about it. they're very hesitant that I'm going to shame them, tell them to, step it up, or, brush those feelings aside and start, kind of work through it. And they're also nervous that I may tell other people or something, but I've never done that. So after a little bit of back and forth, when they open up those doors, what they really tell me is like, they haven't told anybody these things because of that stigma that a certain situation or a certain thing that's going on in our brains is going to make them look weaker or not capable. And that's a shame, because all these people that I'm referring to are amazing people. I mean, they have accomplished things I wish I would have accomplished, and some of them have more potential than I see in myself. But yet they have this little chink in their armor where they feel weak, they feel vulnerable because something's happened, that whether it's emotional because something happened in their previous years, or whether it's something physical in their brains that they have no control over. They're afraid of that. We have to really stop that. And I'm going to open up a little bit for you. I've been thinking about this a long time. Like a long time. Before I even made my first YouTube video, before I ever started a blog. But I want to tell you about this because it's important that you hear this. And it's important that you understand that everybody is going through their own struggle. And you may think that their struggle is not like yours, that your struggle is life or death, that your struggle is so much bigger, but they're feeling the same way. So everybody has a struggle that they're fighting for or fighting with that it can be crippling. And so one of the things I want to talk about is suicide. It's a lot more common than you realize. We tend to put our head in the sand and not really talk about it because it's a little scary. And we also tend to say, oh, well, that person didn't have what it takes to make it or something like that. And that's not the case. We do have pretty high rates of that in our country, and we have to wonder why. A lot of people think about it. A lot of people think about it on a daily basis. And there's something about that. There's people that think about it, but they have nobody to talk to because they know that if they mention that, they are going to be less in the eyes of the people listening. This happens all the time. We hear about a friend or even somebody that, a friend of a friend, or maybe even somebody that's more distant to us, that they came to that conclusion that was their best course of action. But if you look back, they never had anybody there to listen. They never had anybody there to guide them. Sometimes we just need a mentor or a role model, and that's been lacking in our life. So I went through a struggle like that a long time ago in my earlier, let's say, younger life. And I experienced everything I'm telling you about. Luckily for me, I was raised with openness, where it wasn't really taboo to talk about your feelings or what was going on, except that was only on the people that were super close to me. The moment I stepped outside of that circle, that stigma was there. And it was, when it came to that point where that happened, basically, if you know what a 5150 is, well, that happened. And it was a terrible experience. Never gonna forget it. And it was very disheartening to see not who was there to support me, but who was not there. I'm not going to get into details, but I'm thankful for my family and my people that helped me through that. But I was also very disappointed of the people that I reached out to, and they didn't really help. Now, I'm not sure if the word disappointment is right, because when you're disappointed on something or somebody, it's because you had an expectation and you assume that there's a duty for that person to fulfill that expectation. And in my case, in the case I'm talking about, I don't think that there was a duty for those people to help or even listen. In fact, I know for a fact that they did not know any better. They don't know how to handle a situation like that, and that is exactly why we have to talk more about this. Most of the time, all you have to do is listen. Don't say, hey, you know what, let's make a... Don't say, oh, you know what, I'm busy today, but let's talk next Friday. Or let's schedule a call. That's for business, and that works fine for business. That is what, how you do things. But you need to develop a little bit of a gut feeling, I guess, or a sense to say, well, is this person really asking me to talk to them because they got to get something off their chest? And feel free to ask that directly. Say, are you okay? Is there something going on that you want to talk about right now? I've extended my phone number and my access to all my friends. They have my phone number. At any time they call, I do everything possible to pick up the call and talk to them, even if it's for 5 or 10 minutes, so we can figure out what's going on. Sometimes it's not about fixing the problem, but just listening. Be compassionate and just sit and listen. We've been put into this culture war and social media wars where we've been trained to listen, we've been trained to wait to respond. And that's what we do 95% of the time. We're waiting for that opportunity to respond and put our input into whatever the other person's saying. That's not always the best approach. Sometimes you just have to listen, acknowledge what's going on, and then if you think that there's something that you can add to that, then say, hey, I understand this is what you're saying. Would you like to hear my opinion on it? Would you like to see my take? Do you want some advice on how I would handle the situation? Things like that. That goes so much further than, well, you should do this. Or, oh, the problem is that you didn't do this, or you didn't do that. People don't really want to hear that they made a mistake that put them in that situation, because you don't have all the details, and chances are, a lot of the times, they haven't done anything to get to that point. It just happened to be the situation they find themselves in. I am a big proponent of the idea that our choices put us where we are, but sometimes we don't know how we made certain choices. So be compassionate, be helpful, be a good listener. I got to take the kids to school. Maybe I'll talk a little bit more about it as I gather some more thoughts. See you in a minute.
5 minutes later.
So yeah, basically, unfortunately for entrepreneurs, we can't just go around telling people what our issues are, because people will lose trust. Like I said, we have a culture where that's not really acceptable. Maybe it's even taboo to talk about that stuff. But be somebody that can help others just by listening and being there for them. And then also for yourself, you should find somebody that you can confide in, that you can talk to. Maybe somebody that's not super close to you, because they will have a more unbiased perspective to just listen. If you talk to your spouse, of course, that's great to have an open relationship like that with your spouse and be able to talk to them, but they have a bias because they love you, because they're with you day in and day out. Your family as well. But you should have somebody that you can talk to every once in a while and just bounce ideas from, or bounce ideas with. This is not just about your emotional well-being and mental health, but also for business. And especially, we have a pretty tough journey as entrepreneurs, because we have to maintain that. We have to maintain that persona in order for people to want to do business with us. So it's hard to open up to people, because you wonder, is this person going to try to sabotage me? Are they really being helpful because they want to help, or they want to know more about me so they can use that to their advantages? I mean, all those are valid concerns, because business is business. So you can try to find somebody that's going to help you with that. If possible, be a person that does that for others. That counts for a lot. So with that said, guys, that's it. That's about it for today. We're going to the park, as we usually do in the mornings, because we got to get some physical activity going on for for the day and stuff like that. So